Hi, thanks for joining us on PO Sports Talk, the playoff edition. I'm Colin Stevens alongside Mike Miller. We're here at Cayley Field for the site of the District 3 playoff rematch between Greencastle and Shippensburg. Greencastle won that game in the first meeting 28-27, double overtime thriller. So Mike, how do you think the game's going to play out this time?
Again, I think it's going to be a close game. I think both teams showed in the first meeting of the season that these two teams are so evenly matched. They do so many things well. They both have solid defenses. Both have big-time running attacks. In the first game, it was a tale of two halves. We really saw Greencastle dominate in the first half. In the second half, it was really all Shippensburg. And really, arguably, I thought it was mostly Shippensburg taking control in overtime, too, in both overtimes. Again, I see it being a very close game. I think it's all going to be, for Greencastle, it's going to be a big difference if they can get Tyler Zaflarski back there, big bruise and fullback. He's missed the past 3 or so games with Greencastle coach Chuck Jimenez calls it a deep shoulder bruise. If he gets back, it could be a big difference for them. Although, in his place, sophomore Ashton Byers has really stepped up for the Blue Devils. He had a really great game last week against Big Spring. I think he had something like 80-some yards. It was his most productive game of his career. He showed he can definitely bruise a defense. He can, he falls forward. He's a big, hard running back. But again, you can't really replace a kid like Tyler Zaflarski, a big, strong guy. So if they can get him back in the running attack, it should pay dividends for the Blue Devils.
Yeah, and the Blue Devils were without Zaflarski in the first meeting with the Greyhounds. So they already know what it's like to be in a tough game, a tight game, without him and still come out with the victory. So I do agree with you, though, that is going to play a big factor. And I also think defensively, he really holds it down in the middle with Ian Spencer. They're a great duo, but without Zaflarski, it really isn't the same. There is some drop-off there. And Shippensburg, like you said, did pick it up in the second half and start to figure things out, both offensively and defensively. But I think a key to this game is going to be turnovers, In a playoff game especially, whoever can keep the ball in their hands and sustain drives will really benefit. So and it's going to come down to quarterback play. Where do you see strengths lying at quarterback, Mike?
I definitely, even though he wasn't the starter coming into the year, Greencastle's Grant Murray has done a great job just managing the offense. They don't expect him to be the guy to make plays, as long as he can manage the offense, make a few passes here and there. I mean, Greencastle's strength is they run a lot of sweeps, they run a lot of counter stuff like that. They're not going to change that in this game. That's what they've been doing all year. Even though that's what they did against Shipp, and that's what they had success with, that's what they're going to keep doing. Not going to be many surprises. So I think if Murray can continue to manage the offense, they should do well. On the other hand, Shipp, Marshall Whitmer, he's been okay. I mean, he's not a guy who's going to beat you with his arm. He's a guy who's mostly just going to hand off to their stable of backs. So I definitely give the advantage to Greencastle as far as quarterback play.
But Marshall Whitmer, he can make plays with his legs, which is something Grant Murray hasn't been able to do, much like Austin Scott did before he went down with an injury. Austin Scott was always a threat with the run. Murray doesn't run as much, but he did have the rushing touchdown in the second overtime period. Marshall Whitmer, though, is an elusive quarterback at times. He's not the fastest guy. He doesn't have that quick speed, but kind of like a Tom Brady or a Peyton Manning, he can manage the pocket and get out of the way of rushers when he has to. But if it comes down to either of these quarterbacks having to pass a lot, it's not going to help. These teams do rely and live on the rush, so if either of them have to get away from that, it's going to be difficult.
Absolutely, yeah.
So on to Chambersburg now.
Sure.
Chambersburg is the 13th seed, and they're going to be facing the 4th seed, Daniel Boone, who is 9-1. How tough of a game? Chambersburg hasn't won a game in a while.
This is going to be Chambersburg enters the postseason on a 3-game losing streak. They played the Titans of the Mid-Penn. They've lost to State College. They lost to CD, and they lost to Cedar Cliff. So, going into this game against Daniel Boone, who's outscored the opposition something like 300-100 this season, it's a monumental task, let alone traveling the 2.5-hour drive over to, I think, Berks County for this game. It's going to be a tough game for the Trojans. I mean, I think right now they should just be happy to. That sounds a little bit harsh. They should be happy to be in the playoffs. It's been a long time coming for them, but this is going to be a tough game to overcome. Maybe if they can get a couple turnovers and get some field position, maybe they can get something going, but it's definitely going to be tough going up against the number 4 seed, Daniel Boone.
And we're not sure who's going to be playing at quarterback for the Trojans. Connor McCoy went down with an injury before the game last week, so senior Matt Harbaugh had to step in as the starter. Hadn't had too much success before last game, but played pretty well in the loss for Chambersburg, but that could be a position to look at for Chambersburg. And it's also, if Jamal Pickett can get things going for them, that's really where their strength lies. But we've talked about this before. He seems like he's kind of worn down as the season's gone on. So if they can get some kind of rushing attack going, that's going to be key. And turnovers, again, a big point for Chambersburg throughout the season. Greencastle and Shippensburg don't turn the ball over as much, but Chambersburg has been very turnover prone throughout the season.
And not only that, they've squandered field position really the second half of the season. And letting on to what you said earlier, just the consistency at quarterback has just been a problem for them this year. They haven't really found it. Haven't found it in McCoy, haven't found it in the other guys. And they've been battling injuries, and it's just been one thing after another for the Trojans. And yet here they are in the playoffs. So I think that is definitely a testament to how far they've come. Yeah, I mean, this could be a tough game for them.
Yeah, they've definitely shown a lot of progress. Let's hope this gets the young guys some experience playing in a playoff atmosphere, and they can carry over to next season.
Absolutely, that's the thing, because they are a very young team, and they're just laying the groundwork for next season and the year after that. So, I mean, hats off for the Trojans this year. They've done a very admirable job, climbing back to respectability, and so, we'll see what happens.
All right, so now for our picks for these games. First, we'll do Chambersburg and Daniel Boone. I'm taking Daniel Boone 35-17. They've got a high-powered offense. They put up points, and just this late in the season, I don't think the Trojans will be able to hang.
Yeah, I'm going 37-14 Daniel Boone. Like we said earlier, it's going to be a tough game for the Trojans. I don't really think they're at the level where they can match some of these giants around the area. But hats off.
Mm-hmm. And for Greencastle Shippensburg, this was very tough for me to pick. I want to go with Shippensburg in this game, but I just think Greencastle is too powerful. I went with Shippensburg last time. This time I'm going to switch it up and go with the Blue Devils. I think just the veterans on this team aren't going to let them come out without a win, and Taninis is gonna have these guys ready. I think Faust will have some different things for this game, as he's shown time and time again. He can scheme with the best of them, but still think the Blue Devils will take this in another very close game. I'm going 17-14 for the Blue Devils.
I echo everything you just said. I'm taking another close Greencastle win, and that was sort of what we thought going into the last game, and it proved to be right. It was just the best game we've seen all year. These teams are just so evenly matched. I'm going to take Greencastle 21-20. They got the home field advantage like they did last time. I just sort of give them the upper hand in some of the key positions, especially the running game. So Greencastle 21-20.
All right, well, thanks for joining us again on PO Sports Talk. I'm Colin Stevens, Mike Miller. Please send us your picks and thoughts on these games to our Twitter account at PO Sports Desk. We'd really love to see what everyone is thinking for these games, especially end of the season, playoff time. It's going to be a fun weekend. So thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next week.